I have been Skyping with Zack Knight over what has just happened. And Loree McBride tricked us in a court case we had with her. We were being sued over our use of Jesuit technology to fight Loree. And the way we eventually resolved it was that we reasoned that we were actually not stealing Jesuit technology by using the Jesuit space fleet, which is what she was claiming. Because we had acquired so many Jesuits and still call our fleet the Jesuit Space Fleet. So essentially, we also took over the Jesuit name for our side to win the case. We were able to prove that Loree has the same right to the Jesuit name that we do. After all, we have the previous leader of the Jesuits, Zack Knight. The only rule is that we had to change our fleet transponder name to the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. So Terrance Jenkins just noticed that Loree has changed her fleet's transponder name to the Loree McBride Church of Gail. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of room for legal recourse because we just finished a court case that allowed us to use the Jesuit name. So I was Skyping with Zack Knight over this and decided the best way to handle this is to change the name of Church of Gail. We are all the church members of our Church of Gail congregation in the millions. Zack and I have agreed that the best new name for Church of Gail is the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. Now that Zack Knight is on Jesus Christ's side and my side, that's a good name for us. We have a lot of ex-Jesuits on our side, but we still call them Jesuits. The spaceship that my men lived on before Angelina Ballerina destroyed it was called the Church of Gail. And that name for our destroyed spaceship remains the same. This is to eliminate confusion. But I'm proud of what the Jesuits are now under Zack Knight, and decided to honor the Zack Knight Jesuits by calling our new church with ex-Jesuits and Church of Gail members the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. I am no longer ashamed to be associated with the Jesuits because their true leader is now Zack Knight, and Loree McBride is a disgrace to the Jesuit order. I propose that all Catholics vote that Loree McBride be excommunicated from the Catholic Church. I officially excommunicate her as the leader of the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits, but I ask the Catholics all over the world to back me up. Send your vote to Zack Knight, who is the true leader of the Catholic Church, at gailsmen@yahoo.com. I'll have a link for that underneath this video. Pope Francis himself agrees with my decision, even though popes have never really had much power in the Catholic Church. The true leader has been the Jesuit leader for a long time. Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits are considered part of the Catholic Church now because we honor what the Apostle Peter and Jesus Christ believe about what constitutes a true Christian, which is one who exercises love, tolerance, forgiveness, and freedom. And Loree McBride and her Jesuits are a disgrace to what the Apostle Peter died for when he was crucified upside down. I am proud to be associated with the Zack Knight Jesuits because Zack has exercised courage, love, and vision as the Jesuit leader since he's come to Jesus Christ's side, and that all those, regardless of their religious persuasion, who embrace love, tolerance, forgiveness, and the vastness of Christ, including those members of the Catholic Church who believe in these things from the depths of their heart, are part of the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. But those members of the Catholic Church who engage in warfare to try and force their religion and political persuasions on others are all excommunicated from the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits and the Catholic Church. And because the Jesuits have been the true leaders of the Catholic Church for decades now, we Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits, as the true leaders of the Catholic Church, have the right to redefine who we consider a Catholic. Any religion is defined by its leadership, and the true leadership of the Catholic Church today is Zack Knight and Gail Chord Schuler, and both Zack and Gail follow the real Jesus. Gail, myself, by allowing myself to be called a Jesuit, has redefined what constitutes a Jesuit as a group that stands for the love of Christ, tolerance, forgiveness, and sexual freedom in true love, and freedom of speech, the press, and liberty for all. I'm not exactly sure who Babylon the Great is in Revelation 17 and 18, and it may indeed be the Catholic Church. Perhaps a new Catholic Church that's been taken over by a resurrected Angelina Ballerina. But for now, as long as I am alive, and Zack and I are leaders of the Catholic Church, and as its leaders, we have the right to modify the bylaws of the Catholic Church so that we can excommunicate those who are not worthy of the Apostle Peter and Jesus Christ. We no longer need to worry about Angelina Ballerina because she's in hell. But after the rapture, when we true Catholics are resurrected to heaven, that Jesus may allow Satan to resurrect Angelina Ballerina from hell, and she may then at that point take over the Catholic Church and turn it back into an evil organization at its head. That Catholic Church is not mine. But what it is today, under Zack Knight's leadership, is also my church. So all who follow the Catholic Church under its true leaders, who are Zack Knight and Gail Chord Schuler, are called the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. Regarding the Mass, to be a Gail Chord Schuler Jesuit and a Catholic today, we will treat the Mass as the Lord Jesus wanted his supper to be treated. If a person eating the wafer wants to see it as Christ, okay. But if they want to see it as just a symbol of Christ and not the actual Christ, that is okay too. We won't be killing anybody over how they interpret the Mass, as the Catholic Church has done in the past. Also, I will state that priests and nuns may marry, and if they do so, they are still eligible to be priests and nuns, but they have to be faithful to their partners. Faithfulness will be defined as in the Bible, where some leaders, like King David, can have more than one spouse, but need to be faithful within God's parameters. For instance, because King David was a very persecuted leader, God allowed him more than one spouse, but he had to be faithful to the spouses he married and to take care of them all, and he was not allowed to cause already married persons like Bathsheba to commit adultery. I will say that Zack Knight and I have a prenuptial agreement which allows each of us more than one spouse. But in spite of this, there are some rules, and we have to only have sex that does not bring harm and that is combined with true love with those we have it with. Even though I am allowed more than one spouse, I consider myself married to Brent Spiner, and he gets about 95% of my brain-to-brain sex. And if I do fully and legally marry him, I plan to stay physically faithful to him and to have physical sex with no other besides Brent. As to how Zack Knight feels, I'm not sure, but I believe that Zack Knight could be happy with Rule 13 alone, but now uses the sexual act outside of Rule 13 as a means to promote health and freedom in the world. So Jesus Christ does not oppose Zack Knight's current use of his penis and of his sex. Jesus Christ created the laws of marriage to promote peace, happiness, and love. And as long as we honor that and live our lives as 1 Corinthians 13 tells us to, we have violated none of God's laws. Loree McBride and her followers have been excommunicated from the Catholic Church. I give that decree right now. So all who follow her are no longer considered Catholics. For anyone that wants to judge Pope Francis, I say this: any of you Catholic priests that have not sucked on an altar boy's penis, cast the first stone. Though we are taking a vote among Catholics in regard to Loree McBride's excommunication, we expect the vote to be in our favor, and that the Catholic Church will vote to excommunicate Loree McBride and those who follow her. Though she calls her transponder Loree McBride's Church of Gail, our church congregation is no longer called Church of Gail, and I have nothing to do with Loree McBride and her evil. If the Catholic vote goes against us, I'll let you know in a later video. But Zack Knight and I have earned the respect of our following, and we expect the Catholic Church to agree with us that Loree McBride is a disgrace to the Catholic Church and needs to be excommunicated.
I'm Zack Knight, and I approve this message.